Have you ever thought about what happens to our actions when we don't take responsibility? Often, we underestimate our capabilities and retreat from doing something out of fear and doubt, without even giving it a chance to try. But do we ever think about how big an opportunity we lose in such situations? We're diving deep into a powerful story that will shift your perspective on facing challenges and embracing responsibilities. It's not just another video, it's the key to unlocking a life of fulfillment and achievement. Don't think about skipping this one, your journey to a transformed life begins right here. We will see how, by shirking responsibility, we waste the chance to recognize and achieve our full potential. Instead of taking responsibility, we leave our tasks incomplete, avoiding self-denial, and this leads to a continuous feeling of hesitation and self-crisis in our lives. This video will teach you that when we believe in ourselves and our capabilities, we can face any challenge and how miracles can happen in our actions. So let's start the story without any delay. In a small village, there lived a person who had the same problem. He always doubted his abilities and always in a dilemma. He never liked the work he did at all. He did it out of compulsion just so his family could easily get by. He earned just enough for 2 meals a day, enough to fill their stomachs, and he always lost himself in dreams that one day he would become very wealthy and be the richest man in the town. He dreamt of having everything a wealthy person possesses, all the comforts and luxuries, with no shortage of anything. With these thoughts in mind, he always worshipped his God. He always thought that with the blessings of his God, a miracle would happen in his life, and he would become very wealthy. Therefore, he spent his days and nights, mornings and evenings, only in the worship of his deity, lost in devotion. Whenever someone asked him to do some work, he would say, "Whatever happens, will happen. Who am I? The real doer is someone else." But, in reality, he was always caught in a dilemma. He could never make a decision and had all sorts of excuses whenever he failed to complete a task. Like, "I tried a lot but this task cannot be completed. It's impossible. This task is too difficult." He had many such excuses to convince himself. His wife and family would taunt him and say all sorts of things to him. But that man never seemed to take any action. One day, his wife said to him, "Why don't you do something? How long can our family go on like this? The money you bring from your labor isn't enough to cover our expenses. Why don't you do some other work?" To this, the man replied, "As the master wishes, we must live accordingly. No matter how hard I try, I can't earn more unless my master desires it." One day, his child fell very ill and needed proper medical treatment, but the man had no money. His wife came to him crying and said, "Please, go arrange some money, or our child will die." The man replied, "Silly woman, why do you worry? Nothing will happen. My God is with me, and he will save our child. He won't let anything happen. After all, I worship him so much." Day and night, he worshipped and was devoted to God. So, he believed nothing would happen to our child. "Don't worry," he assured his wife. Hearing this from her husband, the wife stepped out of the house and tried everything she could. She talked to people everywhere, asked for money, and sought help, but no one assisted her. She couldn't find any money anywhere and, exhausted, returned home. Meanwhile, the man was singing hymns to his God, praying for his child to be healed. The child, in pain, kept crying continuously, his suffering becoming unbearable, his screams growing louder. The child cried and screamed for a long time, but the man was unaffected. Suddenly, the child's cries stopped. When the child's voice ceased, the man thought his God had healed his child. He thanked God, saying, "I knew you would heal my child. After all, I worship you so much. I knew you would never leave me alone." When his wife saw the child's voice had stopped, she rushed to him, hugged him tightly, and began to cry loudly. When the man saw this, he realized God had not saved his child. The child was no longer in this world. This realization hit him hard. He couldn't understand how this could happen. He worshipped his God so devoutly, so why did this happen? Many such questions arose in his mind, and he wandered around aimlessly for days. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, but he still found no answers to his questions. Whenever he talked to someone about it, everyone said it seemed there was some lack in his devotion, which is why God didn't listen to him. But he didn't believe anyone. He found no satisfaction in these answers. He was in great pain due to the loss of his child, completely broken inside. One day, while traveling on a path, he sat under a tree's shade due to the intense sunlight and started crying loudly, remembering his child. A sage passing by heard his crying and approached him, asking, "What happened? Why are you crying so loudly? Is there some trouble? Tell me what it is." The man then told the sage everything, seeking his counsel. "O revered teacher, what is my fault? What did I do wrong? My wife blames me for the death of our child. But why would I want to harm my child? I was only praying to God for his well-being. Did I do something wrong?" the man asked the sage. The sage asked him, if your child had received treatment, would he have recovered? The man replied, yes. The sage then asked, why didn't you get him treated? The man said, revered teacher, I didn't have enough money to afford his treatment. The sage questioned, why didn't you have the money? The man answered, where I work, I get paid very little, and it's barely enough to run my household. How could I possibly save more money? The sage then said, if your child's death was due to lack of money, why are you blaming God? He didn't tell you not to earn more money. He didn't say you should continue working where you earn less. God didn't tell you to sit back and rely on him. Hearing this, the man was a bit surprised and asked, so, should we not seek God's help? Shouldn't we worship and pray to him? The sage replied, your God is not somewhere else but within you. He sees through your eyes, works through your hands, and walks with your feet. And when you are not ready to act, how can he help you? You have forced your God to sit idle. The man said, your words are harsh, but everything you're saying is true. Deep down, I knew I was responsible for my child's death. If I had worked harder and gathered the money, if I had sought help from others, my child would have been alive and with me today. After saying this, the man began to cry loudly. After crying for a while and then calming down, he said to the sage, whenever I set out to do something, I lacked resources. I didn't have the money or support, and whenever I tried to do something, I doubted whether I could do it or not. The sage then pointed to a tree and asked, do you know how to climb a tree? The man replied, no, revered teacher, I have never climbed a tree nor do I know how to. But why are you asking me this? The sage said, I'll tell you now. He threw a stone at a dog nearby, angering it, and then quickly climbed the nearby tree. Now, the angry dog was facing the man. The dog, enraged, chased the man, who didn't know what to do. He was running fast when he suddenly spotted a tree. The man quickly climbed up and sat there. After a while, when the dog left quietly, the sage approached the man and asked, what happened? You said you didn't know how to climb a tree, so how did you manage to climb this one? The man replied, revered teacher, I don't know why, but I just climbed up the tree spontaneously. I don't know how I did it, but I had to do it to save my life. The sage smiled and said, necessity makes a person do all kinds of things, whether they like it or not. When your life was at stake, you climbed the tree. Why didn't you remember your God then? Why didn't you call him for help? You could have sat there and prayed to him for protection. But you didn't do that. You climbed the tree effortlessly because it was a matter of your life. However, when your child's life was at stake, you were worshiping and praying to God to save him. You were running away from your responsibility. If you had taken responsibility then, the situation might have been different today. Hearing these harsh words from the sage, the man became even more saddened. He burst into tears and said, revered teacher, you speak the truth. I am responsible for my child's death. I shouldn't have done that. I should have gathered more money. If I had done so, I could have saved my child today. But now, I don't know what to do. The sage then told him, what has happened cannot be undone, but what is yet to come can certainly be shaped. So, rise above your excuses, erase your hesitation from your mind, and remove the doubt that arises in your mind before starting any work. Eliminate this hesitation and then see. You'll be able to achieve what you desire, you'll be able to achieve it, your mind will start becoming stronger. You'll be able to make clear and decisive decisions. After that, you'll never need any excuses. The man replied, but, revered teacher, whenever I try to do something, my mind becomes very weak. I get very scared. How can I strengthen my mind? Can you show me a way? Yes, I have a solution for that, said the sage. The man eagerly asked, what is it, revered teacher? Please tell me. The sage then took the man by the hand to the riverside and asked him, do you know how to swim? The man, a bit scared, hesitantly answered, revered teacher, I do not know how to swim, but why are you asking me this? The sage said, I'll show you now, and then suddenly pushed the man into the river. The man fell into the water, splashing around, trying desperately to save himself. When the sage saw the man starting to drown, he went into the water and pulled him out. When the man came out, he was panting, scared, and very frightened. Somehow, he gathered his courage and stood up. This time, he was very scared of the sage and tried to run away. But the sage again forcefully pushed him into the river. The man started splashing around in the water, desperately calling for help, "Save me, save me." But there was no one around. No one was coming to help him. Then the sage entered the water and forcefully stood the man upright. The man realized that the water was only up to his shoulders. The sage then said to the man, "Now tell me, how could you possibly drown in such shallow water? If you had wanted, you could have stood straight and faced the situation, realizing that the water in this river only reaches your shoulders, and you wouldn't have needed to struggle so much. You wouldn't have panicked or tried to flee the situation. But you have always faced just one fear: if you fall into the river and don't know how to swim, you're certain to die. And that's why you couldn't assess the actual situation. You couldn't even figure out how deep the water in the river was," said the sage. He brought the man out of the river again and, after waiting a bit, pushed him into the river once more. This time, the man knew what to expect. He knew that once he stabilized himself and stood on his feet, the water would only reach his shoulders. And he did just that. He stood up straight. Then the sage asked him, "Have you now found the mantra to strengthen your mind?" The man replied, "Yes, I understand now how to strengthen the mind." The sage continued, "Now you understand that doing something in this world is not the big problem. The problem is that we don't want to do anything. Whenever we feel fear or face a problem, we should step into it, assess it, and understand it, until the problem becomes an opportunity and the fear of facing the situation leaves us. This is how our mind becomes strong. Today, your fear of water has ended, but the reality is you still don't know how to swim. Until you can swim, you won't be able to venture into deeper waters." This lesson from the sage provided a profound understanding of overcoming fears and facing challenges to the man. So always remember one thing in this world: there is nothing you cannot do. You just need to stand by yourself. You need to support yourself, so stop deceiving yourself. Get out of your dilemma, stop doubting yourself, and recognize your strength. You can do any task you wish to do. Hearing this, the man realized his mistake, paid his respects to the guru, and returned home. From that day, he was committed to correcting his mistakes and strengthening his mind. Whenever he faced a situation that scared him, he would stand up to it and confront it bravely, fulfilling his responsibilities because that's what responsible people do. He overcame his self-doubt and relinquished his comforts, taking control of his own life. If he felt fear, he would undertake the task, which made his mind even stronger. He no longer had any hesitation or fear. He was fully prepared to face any situation, and all his fears had vanished. He was now ready to move forward in life. He was fully capable of achieving whatever he desired. Friends, I hope that you have learned something from this video. Don't forget to share this video with your friends. Please continue to support us by subscribing to the channel. So, let's meet in another new video. Until then, take care of yourself. Thank you.